Do you know what month it is? If you answered May, you're correct. If you didn't answer May, where have you been for the last 13 days? Anywho, May is a big month for racing. Now for NASCAR, we got the Coca-Cola 600, one of our crown jewels, but the big one is the Indianapolis 500. IndyCar's biggest race, one of the biggest races in the world, if not the biggest race in the world. We have our own NASCAR driver in the race this year, Kyle Larson. He attempted the double last year. The double, of course, is when you attempt to run the Indy 500 and Coke 600 on the same day, 1,100 miles, trying to get them all. It's only been done once in history by Tony Stewart. Now, Larson obviously came short last year. Weather ultimately impacted his attempt, but this year he is once again looking to do it. However, there has been some news from Kyle Busch himself about his previous attempts to complete the double. Kyle Busch, of course, a two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion. He's won over 200 plus races in his NASCAR National Series career, which includes the trucks and Xfinity. He's won over 60 Cup races. He's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. He has wanted to do the double in the past. It's something that he has talked about in terms of wanting to be the next guy to do that, but the opportunity, it presented itself, but he never ended up doing it. He went on Denny Hamlin's podcast earlier this week, and he revealed some of the details and was kind of surprising to hear. So here is what he said.
So anyways, I had an opportunity done, sealed, signed, delivered.
14.
He did it in 14?
Yeah, so 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
10 years ago. So he's turning 44, so he was 34. Or he's turning 47, so he was 37. Anyways, 2017, I had it. It was all done. M&M's was going to do it.
Wow.
Guess who said no?
Joe Gibbs. Yeah.
Yep. Chevrolet was okay with it. Toyota was okay with it. M&M's was paying for it.
If an opportunity came up, Richard probably wouldn't have any issue in it, would he?
No, I had it signed, sealed, and delivered again.
Oh.
And then Larson took it.
Oh, son of a gun.
Yes. I won't release the sponsor, but I had a sponsor talking to Zach Brown. The deal was done, and we were about ready to go to contract, and Zach Brown was like, well, hey, told the sponsor, he was like, hey, I need you to buy the car. And the sponsor was like, why do I want to buy the car? I don't want to buy the car. I don't need the car. I want to sponsor the car. I'm sponsoring Kyle. He's going to drive the car. I don't want to buy the car. He's like,
they want you to do the capital investment as well.
In case he wrecks the tub, we want you to buy the tub.
Why don't you just put a crash clause or something in there then?
I don't know. Well, It wasn't 2 weeks later that then I'm talking to this sponsor guy, and he was like, yeah, I guess we're too late anyways now that the opportunity's closed because Larson got it. And I'm like, what do you mean Larson got it? And then I found out Larson signed a 2-year deal, and we were only going to do a 1-year deal.
Man, oh man, if you are a Kyle Busch fan, everything seems to be going against you right now with his current Cup career, I guess, in the last couple of years. But then you add this on top of it. Oh boy. Yeah, Kyle Busch could have been in the Indy 500 a couple of times. Yeah, so let's start off with the second one, the most recent one that he tried to get a deal with McLaren. It sounds like the deal that Kyle Larson ended up getting. Sounds like they had a sponsor lined up. They were ready to sign the contract, but then at the last second, they tried to get him to buy the car because money, and it ultimately fell through. It sounds like that was a very possible option with Richard Childress Racing kind of helping it out, but ultimately it fell through. So didn't work out. Kyle Larson got the deal. Obviously, Kyle Larson right now in his prime. We're going to talk about prime in a minute. It'll make sense, trust me. But let's go back to 2017, 8 years ago. Wow, 2017 was 8 years ago. I feel old now. Anywho, this, as I said, we were going to get back to prime. We got to it pretty quickly. This was in the middle of Kyle Busch's prime. Kyle Busch from 2015 to 2019, statistically, those were the best years of his career. He won at least 4 races every single year from that time period. He won 2 championships during that time period. With the exception of 2015, you got to remember 2015, he did miss 11 races, so that kind of skews his statistics to the lower end in terms of top 5s and top 10s. But if we exclude that season, so from 2016 to 2019, He had at least 22 top 10s every season, at least 14 top 5s every season, and he led at least 1,000 laps every single one of those seasons. That was the prime of Kyle Busch's career. This is when we saw Kyle Busch almost winning every single week. And yes, he didn't win the championship every year. As I said, only 15 and 19 he won it, and 15 he missed a third of the season about. So that was the prime of his career. That was when he was dominating, obliterating the field, like doing everything right. And he was in a top team. He had a big name sponsor. You knew exactly where he was on the track. He was the guy at that time. And when you look at that time period at NASCAR, that was a kind of a not great time for NASCAR. Not the racing or whatever, but this is when we kind of hit our slump. Jeff Gordon retired after 2015. 2016, Tony Stewart retires, and Carl Edwards, shockingly. 2017, this time period, this direct year, was Dale Jr.'s last season. So this was when we were in the process of losing all these big names and the ratings hits and all that. This was in the middle of this. This is Kyle Busch's prime was in the middle of all of this happening. And Kyle Busch being in the Indy 500, in my opinion, during this time period, that would have been huge for NASCAR. Could have marketed it like we're marketing Kyle Larson right now. We could have done so much for it. I mean, look at how the deal lined up. M&M's, Mars, willing to fund the car. Chevrolet said yes. Toyota said yes. And that's a really big deal because you got to remember, Kyle Busch was a Toyota driver at the time with Joe Gibbs Racing. IndyCar, I don't know if they did back then, but right now I think they only have 2 manufacturers, Honda and Chevy. So either way, you're going to have to go somewhere else for a manufacturer. So Toyota, if this is their driver, it's a big deal for them to say, all right, yeah, Kyle, we're going to let you go drive for another manufacturer. And in fact, a Chevy, which is our rival in NASCAR, we're going to let you drive for them in the Indy 500. And then for Chevy to say, yeah, we'll have you on board, even though you're a rival in NASCAR, we're going to have you on board for the Indy 500. That is a really, really big deal. Everything lining up. Money, you got to fund the car, getting into a competitive car, getting Toyota to say yes, getting Chevy to say yes, and then Joe Gibbs or Joe Gibbs Racing, someone said no, and it falls through. That is soul crushing. As I said, when we look at NASCAR at the time, what it was going through, when we look at Kyle Busch, where he was in his career at the time, that would have been a perfect mix. That would have been fantastic for NASCAR. The double attempt is something I love to see. I don't care if it's Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon. I don't care who it is attempting it. I want to see it get done. I want to see history get made. I don't care if it's an IndyCar driver doing it. Scott McLaughlin, Joseph Newgarden, Alex Palou. I want to see someone do it. I want to see someone do 1,100 miles in one day because it would be so cool. It would be a huge moment of history, motorsports history. And Joe Gibbs Racing, I don't know if it was just Joe Gibbs himself that vetoed this, or if it was, Dave Alpern, Joe Gibbs, JD Gibbs. They got together and they said, man, it's a great opportunity, but Kyle just got hurt a couple of years ago at Daytona. We really don't want to risk that, or we just no. I don't know if it was a collective no, but it sucks, As I said, I would have loved to see Kyle Busch, especially in his prime, in the middle of all of his winning, and to have the same sponsor sponsoring the car, M&M's and M&M's IndyCar, that would have been so cool to see. So that deal, that one for me, if you're asking me which one I wish happened more, I would have said the one that happened with Kyle Busch in 2017, that would have been cooler. How would he have done? I got no idea. I don't know. But as for Kyle Larson, that's kind of where we're at with Kyle Larson right now, if you think about it. Kyle Larson, kind of like Kyle Busch, that 2017 deal that fell through, the same sponsor sponsors him in NASCAR and is funding him in IndyCar, Hendrick cars. So you got some consistency there. I think McLaren's a Chevy, so you don't have that conflict. That works out. Rick Hendrick approved it. Rick Hendrick's funding it, and it's in the middle of Kyle Larson's prime. Kyle Larson, since he's joined Hendrick Motorsports, has won at least 3 races every single season, and that includes this season. We're only a third through the season. He's led at least 1,000 laps in 3 of his 5 Hendrick Motorsports seasons. He's only 183 laps away from leading 1,000 once again this season. So more than likely 4 of his 5 seasons at Hendrick, he'll lead 1,000 laps. We are in the middle of Kyle Larson's prime right now. So him doing this, it's huge for NASCAR. It's huge for motorsports. It's huge for Hendrick Motorsports, Chevrolet, you name it. It's a huge deal. Everyone is talking about it. Last year at North Wilkesboro, when Kyle Larson went and qualified, I think 5th maybe, at the Indy 500, and he shows up for the All-Star race, and they saw the helicopter coming in. The fan videos were so cool of like, the entire crowd is cheering for Kyle Larson. And I get he's a popular driver, but for all the NASCAR fans there, whether you're a Kyle Larson fan, a Kyle Busch fan, a Denny Hamlin fan, a Brad Keselowski fan, for everyone, because, you know, from a NASCAR fan's perspective, that's our guy. We want to see our guy do good in another motorsport and prove that NASCAR drivers aren't just a bunch of rednecks who turn left. It's a big deal for whether it's Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Kurt Busch, as I said, all those names. It's a big deal for a NASCAR driver to go over, attempt the Indianapolis 500. Not only that, but to have a shot at being competitive. It's a really big deal. So I wish Joe Gibbs Racing went through with that. I get that they have their reasons, and Joe Gibbs Racing has now changed their policy on guys, their NASCAR guys racing outside of NASCAR. We've seen Christopher Bell. We've seen Ty Gibbs. I think even Chase Briscoe. They've done some dirt racing this season. Now that rule has changed, because they saw Hendrick Motorsports change it just for Kyle Larson, and Larson's been on a tear ever since. So they're like, maybe we should let our guys go venture outside of NASCAR and improve their craft. So yeah, man, I wish that would have happened back in 2017. Unfortunately, it did not. We are here in 2025, and obviously that did not happen. So, anywho. But Kyle Larson, he's in Indy right now attempting to practice. He's probably having flashbacks because there's weather that is impeding his practice session. So, Kyle Larson's attempting the Indy 500 this year once again. Hopefully that goes smoothly. Hopefully he can make history and get 1,100 miles. But Kyle Busch almost had a deal twice back in 2017, and then sometime, I guess last year it would have been technically. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting story. We got so close, and it was in the middle of Kyle Busch's prime. We got Kyle Larson in his prime right now, and just, I don't know. I wish it could have worked out. So yeah. Anywho, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. We got the All-Star race this weekend, the 1-year anniversary, speaking of Kyle Busch getting punched in the face by Ricky Stenhouse Jr.